Hello YouTube family, thanks for tuning into this video, and again, please like, subscribe, ring the bell if you want to get notifications when I upload new videos. Again, I work full time, sometimes I'm over 40 hours per week, so I'm not necessarily uploading a new video every day, although I try to. I take a lot of notes, I consume a lot of news between print and online. But again, thanks for tuning in, and if you like these videos, please hit the subscribe button. And I want to start this video off cleaning up a little from my last video. My last video was about the acquittal of Donald Trump in the impeachment hearing, and when I was recording the video, I lost what I was going to say because I was missing a word, and that word was civil litigation. Civil litigation, I got that in there. But I was trying to explain that there would be no criminal trial of Trump due to the incitement of insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. And Mitch McConnell's speech deriding Donald Trump and basically saying the House team proved their point in their presentation that there's always criminal trial available through the judiciary, and I was trying to make the point, nobody's going to bring that to trial. That's not going to happen because the bar is too high to clear to be able to prove that Donald Trump, when he was speaking, intended for the insurrection to happen. However, there were over 100 people that were injured that day. There were 5 that died that day. There were 2 police officers who took their own lives following what happened on the 6th. And all of those people were injured. And for the ones who died, they have loved ones who were injured. You have the Capitol police officers who took their lives, whether it was feeling remorse, guilt, feeling helpless, like there's nothing they could have done, but they feel responsible in some way. It's unfortunate that they took their lives over that incident, but they have loved ones, I'm sure. And those loved ones have been injured because they lost somebody due to the events. You have the woman who was trampled to death, who was part of the insurrectionist mob, and I'm sure she had fallen down this dark rabbit hole that so many on the right have nowadays, that she got lost in all this garbage available, and she participated in it. But the thing is, I would assume she has people that care about her, loved ones, family, husband, kids, siblings, whoever. They lost somebody. And I'm sure they were hoping to get that person back from the rabbit hole she had fallen down into. And now they can't because she died. She got trampled to death by her own peers in this crazy right-wing rabbit hole. But for all those people who were injured that day, people who lost someone they care about that day, they can pursue civil litigation against Trump because the bar is much lower there. And like I gave the example of the O.J. Simpson incident, in my last video, where in the criminal trial they couldn't prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. A lot of that stemmed from incompetency in the LAPD in their investigation and everything. And I'm not going to try and say he did or did not do anything. All I'm going to say is the criminal trial, they couldn't clear the bar. But when the Brown and Goldman families pursued civil litigation, they were easily able to win, because in civil litigation all you have to do is go in there and prove to a jury this person bears some responsibility for what happened, and this family who suffered this tremendous loss deserves some kind of compensation for their loss. That's all you're doing in civil litigation. And I really hope people do pursue civil litigation in this incident. with regard to Trump, because all he cares about is being rich. All he cares about is money. What do I get out of it? And so to take money away from him would be something that would hurt him more, possibly, than even going to prison. And for today's episode, I'm talking about a video I did, I don't know, a week or so ago, on the possibility of party splintering. You know, there's a possibility the Democrat establishment and the left wing could split and form two separate parties. There's a possibility the right wing and the moderate Republicans could split and form different parties. And after, it was within days after I made that video, there was an article about moderate Republicans meeting to consider creating their own party. And my mentality on this is I felt like there's a bigger party of a split with the Republicans than the Democrats. One reason being that the left wing and the Democrat Party are constantly trying to pull the party establishment more to the left. And they seem to believe that they will be able to accomplish that, and most likely through getting more left-wing progressive members into Congress, which has been happening in recent elections. And for the right wing, I mean, right now they're at a tipping point for the Republican Party, because you have a massive amount of support for Trump among the voters and elected officials trying to figure out where they have to come down to be able to get reelected back into office without pissing off these really right-wing supporters, while trying to keep some level of dignity and morality in what they do. And so right now you have, since the impeachment acquittal, there were 7 Republicans who voted to remove Trump from office. And they are all now facing censure. You have Mitt Romney in Utah, Burr in North Carolina, Sass in Nebraska, Collins in Maine. All their state Republican parties are considering censuring them, which is basically, it's a slap on the wrist. It's basically an insult to the politician for their party to say, you didn't show enough fealty to this guy, so you have to be slapped publicly so we can show that we're loyal to this guy who's not even in office anymore. Already censured Cassidy in Louisiana and Toomey in Pennsylvania. I went over them in my last videos to some degree, but these are the names of the people who voted to remove Trump from office in the Senate trial. And for Cassidy, I believe it was that day, Saturday, when they made their vote, and Trump was acquitted because there weren't 67 votes. There were only 57 to remove him, to vote to convict him on the impeachment. That day, Cassidy in Louisiana had the Republican Party in Louisiana voting to censure him. And it wasn't long after that the Republican Party in Pennsylvania did the same to Toomey. And I believe it is Toomey in Pennsylvania who has already said he's not running for re-election. I believe he was the one that was not running for re-election. You have Susan Collins in Maine, who just won re-election in November. So she's got the bulk of her 6-year term left. And she is, I believe, in her late 70s. So it's possible she could not be looking to run for re-election once this term is over. I mean, if I was in my late 70s, I wouldn't want to be working. But she chose to. She chose to run for re-election. As unpopular as she was in Maine, somehow she got re-elected. But these are the senators who decided to vote to impeach Trump in the Senate. And for whatever reason, I'm not going to try and get into their heads. I'm not going to try and claim I know one way or another what they were doing. And they made what I believe was a morally correct choice. They were presented with facts. They looked at the facts and said, yeah, this vote needs to happen. And my hat's off to them. For someone like Romney, whether it was his own morality, which is very possible, he's very religious, very right-wing, and possibly he looked at it and said, at some point you got to stand up and be a man. You know, for Burr, Sass has been dealing with the possibility of censure even before his vote in the Senate. So I would assume it's more likely now that he will get censured, since there's already this tipping point where Republicans are getting censured for their vote, which boggles the mind that the Republican Party is so afraid of upsetting the balance that they would do that. And next I'm going to play a video for you. It is Lindsey Graham talking about where the Republican Party is at.
President ponders his legal future. Republicans are fighting over the future of the party. CNN's Jessica Dean joins me now. And Jessica, time will tell how voters are going to feel. But for now, the Republican senators who voted to convict former President Trump are really facing swift backlash at home. Talk about these censures.
They certainly are, Bianna. In fact, Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina, the North Carolina GOP, will vote later today on whether or not to censure him, one of 7 Republicans who voted to impeach former President Trump in last week's impeachment trial. And he's just one of several who are facing this type of backlash in their home states or home districts over their votes to impeach former President Trump. Now, Senator Burr is not up for re-election. He also said that he believes former President Trump bears responsibility for the deadly insurrection that happened here on January 6th. But here's what Senator Lindsey Graham had to say about Senator Burr and the state of North Carolina.
The biggest winner, I think, of this whole impeachment trial is Laura Trump. My dear friend Richard Burr, who I like and have been friends to a long time, just made Laura Trump almost a certain nominee for the Senate seat in North Carolina to replace him if she runs. And I'll certainly be behind her because I think she represents the future of the Republican Party.
And Senator Graham also saying over the weekend that he believes that former President Trump remains the most potent force within the Republican Party.
Okay, that was Graham talking about the whole deal, saying basically that he would support Laura Trump, the wife of Eric Trump, over Richard Burr running for office, running for re-election. So there you have Lindsey Graham, a very long-serving Republican GOP member, saying we're ready to expel people from this party who don't show enough fealty to Donald Trump, which is absurd to me, but not that surprising. You had this group, you had Evan McMullin and Miles Taylor, that had this Zoom call with 120 current and former GOP members. And what they were discussing was where to go from here. And as you can see on the screen, 40% of the people on the call, of the 120 people on the call, 40% wanted to immediately form a new party. 43% wanted to form a new faction within the Republican Party to try and maneuver within the party and make changes within the party, which I don't know if it's possible. I know that Evan McMullin seems to not think it's possible. He had made a statement that there is still not enough support in the short term to change the direction of the party. So Evan McMullin, even in his own statement, is saying he doesn't believe they have enough people behind them to make the change. And with that call, you had some people who were anti-Trump. You had some people who supported Trump and have broken off from him just since the 6th, just since the attack on the Capitol. That was, for them, the bridge too far. I don't understand how you have children in concentration camps, immigrant children in concentration camps, and that wasn't a bridge too far somehow for you. I mean, there were so many despicable parts of the Trump administration. I don't see how just that one thing, and granted the 6th was a very dark day for the country. And according to McMillan, about a third to a fourth of the party is wanting a new direction. And so you have these GOP members who look at where the party's going. It's going further and further right. It's going into ridiculous areas to the right. And they're trying to figure out how to pull the reins back. There was a CBS News poll which showed that 73% of Republican voters said it was very or somewhat important to them that Republicans show loyalty to Mr. Trump, which, you know, that's a gradient. It's very important or somewhat important for these voters to see Republicans showing fealty to Trump. A third of the respondents in the poll said they would join Mr. Trump if he formed a new party, which Donald Trump has also talked about doing, which was forming his own right-wing party to compete against Republicans. And you have people that support the Republican Party who have said, we would go along with that. You have the Ronna McDaniel, who is the RNC chair, and then you have Jason Miller, statements from them. Ronna McDaniel, all she's concerned with, because she's the chair of the Republican National Committee, she's concerned about the midterms. She's looking at what's going on and saying, hey, we've got to come together. We've got to be able to compete in the midterms. We've got to hold seats that we have and try and pick up seats that we don't have. And she's seeing the battle between the right and the not as right, the moderates and the very right wing in the Republican Party. And just to throw a little more gasoline on the fire, Jason Miller made the statement that these people already left the Republican Party when they voted for Joe Biden. So Jason Miller is basically, and he is a very strong ally of Trump, but he's basically saying that if you don't absolutely 100% support Trump and show fealty to Trump, then you are not wanted in the party. You're not welcome. We consider you not part of the party. You have the statements of things like Rhino, Republican in name only, that people have been making. I know douchebag one, what's his name? Donald Trump Jr., the older of the Donald Trump douchey sons, uses that term a lot. Republican in name only, which is absurd. You believe what you believe. And there are people with right-wing beliefs, and they're entitled to them. But, it's, you know, to me, looking more likely that there will be some break in the Republican Party. Whether they do end up creating their own party, or whether you have a chunk of the Republican supporters who are more moderate, but still right-wing on their political beliefs, they could move to start supporting the Libertarian Party. They could try and create their own party. And it's being made more and more clear by these crazy right-wing people who support Donald Trump that if you don't 100% support him, then you're against him and you're not welcome. So, the rift in the Republican Party is getting stronger. I figured if the parties would splinter off in any way, that the Republican Party was more likely to, because, one, they're out of power right now. They lost the White House, and you have people trying to figure out how to get that power back. You have this huge ego of Donald Trump, the former Republican president, who commands this kind of cultish following, or he's not happy. And then you have this, it looks like more and more that it's a very large slice of the Republican base that absolutely supports the idiocy of Donald Trump. And if you don't fall in line, then you're not welcome in the party anymore. So I made a video about the possible splintering of the parties. I was looking at it more of a possibility of the right-wing Republicans splitting off, the left-wing Democrats splitting off, and then the moderates on both parties kind of coming together to form a party themselves, to where we would have three parties. And who knows? Donald Trump could start his own party, take a third of the Republican base. You could have people trying to stay somewhat loyal to Trump, very far right-wing, staying Republican, and then moderates starting their own party. I mean, it could become a big mess. The end result of that mess is another video I did where I was explaining that we need more than one party. And if the Democrats hold together and the Republican Party splits, what we're going to end up with is a lot of years of Democrat control, to where it's basically a monarchy at that point, where we have one party that's constantly controlling a majority of government, which is also not good, you know. So somebody in the Republican Party needs to get their head out of their ass and just cut Trump loose. And if Trump wants to start his own party and take the most right-wing, vile members of the base with him, so be it. And the Republican Party can try and work to win those people back, or they can try and work to get some of the Democrats' party supporters that are more conservative leaning, more right of center leaning, to start supporting them. I mean, let the Democrat Party's left wing pull them more left, which is where I am. I would prefer for the Democratic Party to be well more left than where they are. But the Republican Party right now is in total disarray and fighting with one another, censoring each other, and it's a huge mess because of one guy. Whether you show fealty or not to this one damn guy, and I don't get that human worship stuff. But thanks for watching. I hope you guys have a great day.